Okay, what's up, YouTube? I'm Lo,
And I'm Emma.
and you've reached Book
The
Girls
girls
on
on the
the
internet.
Internet. Okay, we're moving on to our third book,
Animal.
Animal. Is it Lisa Taddeo? No.
That's a really excellent question.
Animal. Wow, I got it. Lisa Taddeo. It is.
Well done.
Yeah. Okay, that I'm gonna introduce it. That was my pick. Honestly, I think it was my pick from a recommendation from The Atlantic, the magazine. And the synopsis is basically about the the book explores the protagonist, who's a woman, her rage. Um, and that's kind of how I remember the book came to me. Um, what
Love
did
a
you think
rageful
about?
woman.
What did you think, Emma?
It took me a really long time to start this book.
Okay.
And I think I read the first chapter like 4 times before I got to the second chapter. But I think
Fair.
that was more about where I was. Like, I was just like, oh, I'm not ready for this type of read.
Yeah.
Because
There are some parts where it's just like, ugh. Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, I love the rage. But it has almost that like farcical tone, like not quite, but just like
She's detached.
over the top, like just big statements that once I got into it, then I was like, this is so interesting to read.
Yeah.
I took so many screenshots of like quotes from the book that I was just like, oh my God, like this is a sentence you wouldn't find anywhere else, or like you would, but I just love how they kind of slotted it in. And like,
I resonate. So actually, I do plan to reread it. Did I love it? I don't know. It's a very intense book, and it's really hard to understand the narrator, like the thought process, and like I don't know. I felt like there was just, for lack of a better word, like there was just a lot going on, like with the whole story. But there
yeah,
are some nuggets and some reflections from the narrative that I just loved, and I was just like so thirsty for like this type of these phrases. You can read some to us. But there's a few where she like calls men like pigs, and I was just like, say it again, like so that was definitely like filling my cup in the sense that like extreme like rage content, but at the same time I feel like her rage was like almost like not targeted enough, and I don't really, I'm gonna spoil it. Like she ends up killing that some guy that she was sleeping with, and I was just kind of like, okay, like
she
at the
wasn't
same
really
time,
sleeping with him. That was the one and only time they ever had
yeah, that,
sex.
yeah. And like her relationship with other women is like all messed
Okay,
up.
the relationship aspect between women was so fascinating to me
It was so
because I
confusing.
love when people write about like women relationships. Well, I love when women write about women relationships.
Yeah.
Men can shut the fuck up. But she's obviously had this brutal childhood, like from with the stuff with her parents. So like spoiling, her dad cheated, and then her mom killed her dad and then killed herself, and she found both of them while they were still alive, but then died in front of her. She was sexually assaulted at what, like 10
At a
or
public pool.
at a public pool. Like, just, she's obviously had this really horrific childhood that has influenced her in a really major, like in all these different ways. But the relationships with women, I'm like, it was so sad because it was all just through that lens of patriarchy and abuse from men. Like, and it's just
She wasn't able to,
heartbreaking.
yeah, she wasn't able to,
Have healthy relationships with women.
yeah, and to appreciate them at all in any way. Like I feel like she just observes them in the same way that like
everything's
men.
calculated and like
Yeah,
almost staged. Like the whole arc with her half sister. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And then the daughter
so
of
confusing. Yeah,
Vic, like the one scene where they're hugging and
she
then she
starts
basically like,
drugging her.
okay, but the one scene where they're hugging and then she's like, just starts sucking on her tit, and you're like,
Yeah,
and she's like, well, you know, I understand sometimes you just need that. I'm like,
this is why I'm like, maybe I need to reread this because I was just like so confused the whole time. And um the tone, she keeps saying like I'm depraved. And it's just like, yeah, girl, you're hella depraved. And the ending, I was just like, WTF did I just read? I went on Reddit and I was like, okay, I don't know if it's like my reading comprehension is just poor. So I just went to Reddit to like see what other people were saying, and they were like, yeah, this is like so confusing. Like the ending is so open ended. Like, is it a vision? Like, is she dying? Like
yeah,
what's happening? It was overly stimulating, the book itself.
very. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way of putting it.
And I kind of read it like I committed to it. And
Me
I
too.
think maybe
Maybe doing like a chapter every other day or something
yeah,
would
I
have
think
been
maybe
I
would
was like
be better.
inhaling it.
Yeah. It was definitely a WTF book, engaging. So it makes it really hard to recommend when it
Yeah.
comes down to it. But with that said, I think there's a lot, it's definitely a genre, like if I can name it this way, like female rage, like a
Mm.
genre that I would love to delve deeper into. Um
But
and
also
it's
only when I'm in the right mood, because sometimes I'm not in the mood for that
yeah,
genre.
yeah, and I feel like I think I've maybe the one that sticks out is Women at Point Zero that I've read that kind of it's actually is it it's nonfiction. Anyways, whatever. It's an interview of this woman on death row in Egypt, I think, and she basically tells her story of like why she's on death row, and she basically killed her pimp. That's why she's on death row.
Oh, okay.
And you can see in her story that like there's so much rage, and I think and that book really reminded me of Women at Point Zero. Like I think that they kind of join together, but what I find unfortunate is that at least in the literary sense, is that female rage is only ever documented as a result of serious assault and serious violence. But it's like I think the average woman who hasn't necessarily lived like extreme violence at the hand of men also has like serious rage. And that I think this is a type of I'm interested to see that on the page more of just deep frustration um, of really the condition of being a woman, in a man's world. So I think the book definitely like opens up an interest for me, but it is very intense. And I'm just
Did
wondering, like, what is
you?
she gonna write next? Because she was really successful with her first book, which I haven't read. Um, Three Women or something like that. She writes about women a lot, clearly. But yeah, sorry I cut you off.
No, I was interrupting. Did you see Promising Young Woman?
No.
It kind of just when we were talking about it, like that movie popped into my head. You should watch it. I'd be interested to
Okay.
see what you think. But it's kind of that same thing where it's like it's about female rage, but it comes from a place of violence, like
Mm.
violence happening. I'm like, I don't want to give stuff away, but you should watch it. It's
Okay.
really
Promising
good.
Young Women. Okay.
Promising Young Woman, yeah, with what's her name? Carrie Mulligan and Bo
Okay.
Burnham.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you're a publishing house watching this, get some manuscripts about female rage, but maybe not the violent style.
Maybe with that, yeah, we could just be rageful for existing as women in a patriarchal world
Yeah,
without
like it can be
having
a bit
experienced
more
extreme
watered down.
violence. Yeah, let's normalize female rage.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like through significant trauma.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was interesting. I have
Shall
it
I
on my
read some of
shelf.
the bits that I
Yeah, please,
screenshotted?
please.
One that I screenshotted right at the beginning. It was the end of a chapter. It says, "Just then, as I passed the resting gate, I had the premonition that I was going to become a killer." I love that, especially when, she literally
I
does it.
love it.
Um,
But then I really didn't like her kill either. So, anyways.
Women have the upper hand. It's taken me half a lifetime to realize it. We don't actually care about the man who is bringing flowers to another woman. River was a stand-in for Jack. All present men are stand-ins for former men, and all men are stand-ins for our father, and even our fathers mean less than our own self-preservation. May you not go around the world looking to fill what you fear you lack with the flesh of another human being. That's part of what this story is for. What else did I screenshot? When you are young and you see your father choose something, the thing that he chooses will be the thing that you want to be. I'm thrilled you will not have this problem.
That stuck out to me too when I read it. I was like, this is so interesting.
Another end of chapter saying, my father did not become the bad guy for me. Not yet. That day I hated my mother for killing my father, but also for all the reasons you cannot say. Part of my child brain hated her because she wasn't young enough or even beautiful enough, because she wasn't strong enough, or because she was too strong, because she was so complex where my father was not. I hated my mother, in short, for being a woman. Like, they're just...
relatable. Took me a long time to understand that.
This one is less about, like, relatable, but I just liked how she was describing it when she delivered... We didn't even talk about the part where she delivers the baby that dies and then, like, throws it to the coyotes or what. Like, that part is so fucking crazy. But this, I screenshotted, said, they said the longer in there, the better. Like you were a piece of undercooked bread, and the heat inside of me, even just a contact warmth, was better than you coming out exposed to the newsprint colors in the air here. I just really liked how that sentence was written.
Yeah, there was some really, like, the writing, I want to say some parts were like totally my style.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about the editor who like worked on this book. And like, this editor is not okay. I just can't imagine having to read this over and over and over again until it's like finally out. But yeah, definitely engaging. It's definitely a book for conversation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good book club book, I feel like.
Yeah. So for that, I would recommend it, but maybe
for a light holiday read, maybe not.
Yeah, honestly, it was definitely a mistake to read it on vacation. Yeah, I would recommend it, but just know that you're signing up for like
a ride.
Yeah. It's not a walk in the park of a book. Okay, I think 3 out of 3 books, we did it.
Nailed it. Go us.
Okay, thanks so much for watching. If you liked our video, please subscribe.
I don't remember what we said. Please subscribe.
Again, but we're using this blooper. Okay, if you liked our video, please subscribe.